Hi, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Whenever you are joining me, welcome to this presentation, Integrative Methods for POTS Management, Dysautonomia POTS, how to get more spoons back in your day. So if we're meeting for the first time, hey y'all, I'm Kelly Huger. It kind of sounds a little bit like yogurt. I'm an author. I'm an integrated wellness practitioner. I'm a board certified hypnotherapist, clinical hypnotist. Look, I've been doing all things holistic for 40 years now. So I'm a clinical herbalist, clinical aromatherapist, Reiki master teacher, breathwork facilitator, sound therapy. I made my first herbal medicine when I was a teenager. My great grandmother was a granny healer, an Appalachian folk medicine healer as well. And again, I've been doing all things holistic for about 40 years now. I also have taught herbal classes for many years. I used to have 9-month apprentices, and I've been seeing clients professionally now for probably about 20 years at least. So I say all that to say that you're in good hands here. So, I also am a POTS patient. I am a POTS client. Myself, I got my diagnosis when I was about 37. I've had it my entire life. Unfortunately, it got really, really bad. Um, and it took me forever to get a diagnosis, but finally I did get a diagnosis. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a minute. But I just wanted to say, first and foremost, that this presentation is not medical advice. This is for educational purposes only, entertainment purposes only. If you are looking for more specific advice, with for dysautonomia POTS, work with someone who has a lot of experience, somebody like me, doesn't have to be me, but somebody has a lot of experience with it, somebody who really knows it, the ins and out, the details. And please, please, please stay away from fad practitioners or people who are just trying to sell you something or sign you up to sell you something. There are a lot of fad things going on that are out there today. I see it. I'm on the groups for POTS. And I cannot tell you how much bad advice I have seen over the years, not only as a clinical herbalist, um, but and for other chronic conditions, but in general, just there's a lot of bad advice out there. So make sure if you're on some of these groups, make sure that whoever is giving advice, go check them out. For example, here's my website right here. You can go to my website, and if you can go to my About Me, I actually have all of my education list. Well, not all of it because it's a lot, but I have the highlights of the education that I have that is related to holistic methods. So make sure you check out people because there's a lot of fad information out there. A lot of people just wanting to sign you up to sell you something. None of that's here. This is all for educational purposes only. So here's a little bit about my story. Yes, I have hyperadrenergic POTS. I also have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, mast cell activation syndrome. Those other two have not been officially diagnosed. But if you saw my thumb right now, I was giving you the thumbs up, you would see, yup. So, but here's a little bit about my story about how I came to be not only doing what I'm doing now, but the journey that I went through from actually being married to the couch, crawling from room to room, to starting to use to getting a service dog to again crawling from room to room, just horrible situation. I actually went to a doctor one time and I had somebody take me, and I passed out. They stepped over my body and kept on. Just, the challenges in general, not only from family and friends who say it's just anxiety or it's all in your head or whatever. There's a lot of things that come with having a chronic condition, especially if you don't have a good support system. And I did not. I absolutely did not. So, what happened with me was I was a part of a very, very bitter, bitter narcissistic relationship. I am a HSP, highly sensitive person. This is what my dissertation is on, um, as well. I'm talking about in the dissertation about how being an HSP and being, targeted for abuse had led to total, total on burnout and triggered the chronic illness of dysautonomia POTS. Again, it was probably always underlying there. And then not only from having the diagnosis and my cardiologist saying, here's what you have, but we can't help you. He also said I had the body of the blood regulation of a basically an 80-year-old woman. And gave me all the things I could no longer do, but never told me what to do or how to help myself. So in that office, I sat there with my new diagnosis and I said, well, what now? And he goes, we don't know. We cannot help you. So they put me on the medications. Of course, they did not work. One of them made me worse, actually. And so I went back again and again. And finally, he said, I cannot help you. I don't know what to tell you. Try Reiki. And I said, well, I'm a Reiki master. So I appreciate that. And there you go. But with all due respect, Reiki is not enough. And of course, I know he was just doing the best that he could, but he genuinely didn't know anything about it. So I had to find my own way. I had no choice. Again, I was crawling from room to room. I started using a walking stick because I was refusing to use a cane, and it was a nightmare. I remember one time I found myself on the floor. They took me to the emergency room. I was stuttering. They thought I was having a stroke. Anyway, long story short, now here I am, right? Conventional medicine completely failed me. I could not take the medication. So I had no choice. I had to go rogue. And so what I did was, as a functional herbalist, I actually went back and said, okay, let me sit down. I pulled a clinical autonomic nervous system textbook out and I started diving deep. What can I do to help myself since there was no help for me? And if you are here and you have POTS, and again, I have hyperaginergic POTS, and if you're here and you're listening to this, your story is probably not that dissimilar. If you have a good medical professional and you are getting all the things and you are not frustrated and you are nailing it, then I am so happy for you. But probably the majority of people that I talk to, even my private clients as well, because I see private clients for this as well now, usually we get the same story. Very little help from medical professionals unless you're like in a big city, maybe, or something like that. And you're struggling. So this is my goal today, is to give you as much information as I can give from the educational perspective, not knowing your energetics, not knowing any contraindications. So I'm just going to give some generalities to get you started. And then, of course, at the end, I'll share a little bit more about how to connect with me if it feels right for you, for us to actually work together on a deeper level and actually get down into the nitty gritty, down into the mud, so to speak, right? No mud, no lotus. So really get down in that mud, plant that lotus, and then see what blooms. So again, if you're here, you probably understand POTS. You're probably a lot more educated than probably 95% of the population, and probably including your medical provider. I know I am. It can stem from a little different things, right? It can be viral. We have long COVID now, people being diagnosed with POTS from long COVID, and they're actually doing studies for them. You know, they wouldn't do a lot of studies for us, but whatever. But no matter how you got here, you're here. But it can stem from many different things. So MCAS, massive activation syndrome, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, right? Long COVID, viruses. POTS can actually be triggered. So within underneath the umbrella of dysautonomia, we have a lot of different diagnoses. So today we're going to talk more specifically about POTS. But the tools that I'm talking about here today can actually be very, very useful for any type of dysautonomia. And the thing about it is, for especially for my case, from going from, literally crawling from room to room and passing out two or three times in a week. And thankfully I had that's when I started getting my training my service dog. And so the pass out started getting less because he would do cardiac alerts, and he's retired out and I have a new one now who's actually in that process as well. So doing those little check-ins have been excellent. But here's the thing. Again, crawling on the floor, passing out several times a week, brain fog, IBS so bad that I could not even leave the house. I mean, it was just horrible. I tried to get on disability. I could not. Um, Migraine so severe. And now where I'm at now, like I couldn't even carry my grandbabies because I was afraid I might pass out and drop somebody. God forbid, right? I should. So now, not only can I hold my grandbabies, I can put one on each hip, and the rest of them can be dragging me, hold on to my legs, and I'm good. I'm good. And that really should be the picture right here. So the next time I do this presentation, that's what I should do. Put in one of the pictures there. I say this to say this. So I very much understand the quality of how the impacts of your quality of life, yeah, can be very debilitating. Um, there was times I had suicide ideation because not only was I going through a life crash, I was a victim of narcissistic abuse, and I was destroyed financially, sexually, emotionally, physically, whatever, in every which way you can think of. And I was at the lowest point anyone could ever be at. And then having, the chronic condition being triggered on top of all of that, I almost gave up. I just thought there's no way out. And I remember looking up one day, I remember just walking around on the property contemplating unaliving myself, and I just heard this whisper, and it said, "Look up." And I looked up. I saw what looked like the shape of a grand number one in the clouds, and I remember thinking, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I'm going to do it. And it's been a long road, but I'm very, very happy to say now I feel better than I did even in my 20s, and I can now do downward facing dog and yoga. That might sound sophomoric and juvenile, but if you have POTS, you understand that there are certain things that we cannot do. And bending over is one of them. As a matter of fact, my previous retired service dog, I actually taught him how to bend over and pick things up and hand them to me because I could not bend over. So anyway, I say all that to say is been there, got the t-shirt, the toothbrush, a hat, everything. And so I speak from genuine, heartfelt experience on this. So today we're going to take a little bit, again, this is all for educational purposes, only when I work with my private clients, and even before I started working with POTS clients as an herbalist, I've worked with a lot of different types of chronic illness clients. I've worked with lupus, I've worked with extreme burnout, I've worked with people who have different types of arthritis, like rheumatoid, a lot of different types of chronic conditions. So I want to preface all the information that I'm sharing today is that number one, this is a protocol to work one-on-one with someone. This is not a cutter program. I'm going to give you as much as I can give you in the time that we have together. However, herbal therapeutics should be based on the person and their constitution. Supplements should be based on the person and their constitution. Everything should be done based on the person, the client that is in front of you. A heart does not walk into a cardiologist's office, right? A set of ovaries doesn't walk into the OBGYN office. We are a whole person, and that is the reason why that I work the way that I do, because it is not just a, oh, take this supplement and all your woes are going to be all your woes are going to go away. That is a pharma mindset that we have in the United States, and that is just simply untrue. So, again, practicing herbalist here for many, 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 many years. And so I want to make sure that you know that what I'm giving you is a bird's eye view and not specific. I would have to know specifically your situation, and that takes, a full consultation, a full deep dive. So just want to make sure that you understand that. So with that being, with that in mind, I am going to give you some of the overview, and the bird's eye view are some things that can get you started right away. And if this works for you, great. I'm happy for it. And if you need more personalized support, I'll tell you how to reach out to me at the end. We can jump on a call and see if working together makes sense. And if it does, we can talk about what that looks like. And if not, I can share some other resources with you, or even, a blog or something that may be supportive as well. All right. So I'm going to talk about the first thing I want to talk about is a heart tropho restorative. So a tropho restorative is just a fancy word that means food for the organ. And so hawthorn is a heart tropho restorative. So it is basically food for the cardiovascular system, for the heart, for the circulatory system. Now, the thing that I like about this, which is the reason why I recommended this as my first herbal therapeutic, is number one, it's food for the heart, food for the the circulatory system. And it also has calming properties as well. And often we need this in today's time, especially if you're a highly sensitive person who considers yourself as empath, sensitive, HSP, highly sensitive person, or intuitive. This is even more so for you because we tend to need more help and a lot more. Our challenges are different than neurotypical people, or even if you're an autism spectrum as well as I am, our challenges are different. So we need different protocols. We need different tools. So the thing I like about Hawthorn is again supports the cardiovascular system, the heart, and again we have that calming properties naturally. Now I use this is the Hawthorn tree, and these are the berries, but we use the leaf, the flower, and the berries. I personally make a really nice hawthorn cordial that I'll put a little bit of astragalus in it, all the things that I mentioned from the hawthorn tree, and a little bit of cinnamon as well. Sometimes a little tiny bit of ginger. And that's a really nice heart cordial that you can drink every day. If you have alcohol sensitivities, of course, you would want to use something different, maybe like an oxymol with vinegar or something like that. But it is a really good daily nutritive. Again, daily nutritive. David Winston's, again, no kickback. And if you need a full script, you can reach out to me. I can pull a full script on this. Has a really nice Hawthorn solid that you can take by spoon, and it's really nice as well. Or you can, if you're an herbalist and you're watching this, then run with this. Make your own, put it in honey, grind it up, make your own little, um, you know, your that's what I do. I use my own. I make my own stuff for myself. I used to sell products. I don't do as much of that anymore, when I taught classes and stuff. But after I'm almost finished with my doctoral program here. So probably afterwards, I'll probably start making things again. But again, great, great, great plant to know. And even if you're like to plant things, hey, this is a great tree, right? That you can grow as well. I personally do not have it yet. I'm actually looking at planting it this spring. All right. So what are some other herbal therapeutics? Well, one I do not have listed here that I really, really like is an herbal nerve vine called lemon balm, Melissa officinalis. Again, it's not shown here, just an impromptu thing. I like lemon balm because it's an herbal nerve vine. It's nourishing the nervous system, and it does also have some bitter principles, so it can also help with the gut microbiome as well. Huge proponent when I also work with people who have chronic, I'm sorry, um, complex post-traumatic stress disorder. And so I also work with people who have that, and I work with the gut microbiome as well. It's often overlooked by a lot of practitioners. So we do want to address the gut microbiome. So be mindful of that. Also, you can go to my website. I have a lot of blogs on pots and herbalism. So if that resonates with you, go ahead and check that out too. Again, kellyhuger.com, Kelly with an I. So let's talk about two of the adaptogens adaptogens help the body to adapt to stress, hence the term adaptogen. Both of these come from Ayurveda. However, I'm a traditional Western herbalist, a medical herbalist, and I also will also use things outside of the traditional Western herbalism. And these are the two that I grow. They're easy to grow. I love it. If you can grow a tomato plant, you can grow ashwagandha. And if you can grow mint, you can grow Tulsi, right? So if you can grow peppermint, you can grow Tulsi. If you can grow tomato, you can grow these two. The root is used in ashwagandha. There are probably recipes on my website for this, for the ashwagandha. I use it as a hot chocolate. I use it with, if chocolate is not contraindicated for you, I use it with listen, fermented cacao. That's how I use it, fermented cacao. And so I blend that up and I put a little cinnamon in it, and it really makes for a really great hot chocolate. Reduces stress, can stabilize blood pressure, can stabilize blood sugar as well, can support adrenal health. Again, the root is mostly what we use, and it's available in powder capsule or tincture forms. Have never used tincture at all with this. I think I don't know. I try to use everything in its more in a food-like state. So, yes, I do tinctures, but I try to do like, for example, with ashwagandha. I used to use, I not used to, I still do that. I make like an adaptogen nut balls that I learned from Rosemary Gladstar, who I studied with her as well. And I should have the picture there because it's me and her at one of the herb conference making the adaptogen balls. Anyway, I put ashwagandha in mine. So that's another way you can do it as well. You can put it in like nut butters and things like that. A lot of different ways to get your herbs besides just tinctures or teas. This does not a good taste. It is a bitter, so you do have to. So when I use it with my hot cocoa, I will add a little bit of sugar in the raw or something like that. Not too much. All right, let's talk about Tulsi, holy basil. Oh, one of my favorites. So many different uses for that. Also makes a really great mead. So I love that as well. Calms the nervous system, can help regulate cortisol levels, which is really good if you have hyperadrenergic spots or even if you're just a regular person. Yeah, we have a lot of stress. So again, and it reduces inflammation. So again, when we're looking at anything that's inflammatory, we want to look at how can we reduce inflammation, and Tulsi is good. I like also Tulsi in an elixir. It has a really, it's great as a tea. I love it as a tea. Tincture's fine too. Again, I tend to do tea or elixirs with this. Um, Such a great plant. Again, I could just spend a whole hour on just the herbal therapeutics. But I want to give you, enough things to get you started. So let's keep moving. So, as somebody who is NAHA certified clinical aromatherapist as well, I promote safe usage only. So you can go to NAHA, NAHA.com or .org probably actually, and they'll give you the safety guidelines. I do want you to be mindful because there are people out there who simply want to sell you something when it comes to aromatherapy. And not everybody has extensive training in aromatherapy. And if you are not careful, it can be not safe. Yeah. I've seen a lot of safety issues. So for years, I used to teach a aromatherapy safety class. Um, and just to dispel some of the stuff out there from like multi-level marketing, things like that. And if you're into that, there's not judgment. I'm just saying that there's not a lot of good information that sometimes comes out of those companies. I'm not affiliated with anything. You can get your essential oils wherever you want. I don't sell anything. Okay, so let's start with lavender. That's just a little disclaimer there. Let's start with lavender. I like lavender because it's calming, helps reduce stress and anxiety, and can promote restful sleep. Now, here's a little pro tip for you. You don't have to have a diffuser, although I love mine. It does come from Floricopia. Nobody pays me to say that. They've got great essential oils. So does plant therapy. Again, nobody pays me to say that. I don't promote any one company. But I do have a aromatherapy, a water aromatherapy diffuser, which I love, but you don't have to. You don't have to put all that money into that. If you have a cotton ball, you can put a couple of drops on a cotton ball and put it by your bedside or by your workstation or whatnot. Now, again, here's a pro tip with lavender. I love lavender because it's really relaxing. 3 or 4 drops of lavender on a cotton ball, and then 1 drop of spikenard, which is not mentioned here. Really sedating, really relaxing, right? And they can really drop you out of that fight or flight and into that rest and digest, right? Which is really what we need. We want to spend as much time out of fight or flight as we can for the body to heal. That's what we're going for. This is what the body needs to heal. Okay, now let's talk about peppermint. I notice there is a little typo there, and it should be there should be an X because peppermint is a okay. There's a little typo there in my peppermint, so apologize for that. I'll fix that before I do the next one. I love peppermint spearmint. You can use as well. Both of these are really good because they're invigorating. They can really like elevate your mood and also bring mental clarity. So this is really great if you're feeling foggy, you can just get you a little small one. I also teach in my group program, I teach people how to make nasal inhalers. I don't know if that's on my website, but you can check that out. But I love nasal inhalers. You can just, put your essential oils in there and like keep it in your pocket and waft it underneath your nose throughout the day. And that really can really help brighten up your mind, really allow it to become really focused. And somebody who's in a doctoral program who has dysautonomia POTS, You know, sometimes I got to throw in a little taurine there too, you know what I'm saying? But anyway, so yeah, I use this quite a bit. Now, another thing I like about this is I also suffered a concussion as well, which, and because I had the underlying issue of dysautonomia POTS, it made my recovery take a little longer. I use peppermint quite a bit for that, for the nausea as well. Now, I also use self-hypnosis as well for that. But again, peppermint is really, really great. And you don't have to expend a lot of money. You can go just get one of those little tiny bottles, open the bottle and just kind of waft it underneath you, have it sitting on your workstation or whatnot. Doesn't have to be overcomplicated. Yeah. All right, so chamomile. So I actually make an autonomic nervous system recipe, which I'm actually working on a POTS book right now. So I'll put all my recipes in that book. And I'm also working on an aromatherapy recipe book as well. But anyway, chamomile is one of the ones that I have in that. And so you can dilute that and just put that on your pulse points on your wrist. And it can also really, really settle you in and really help to reduce stress and again promote relaxation. Again, properly always make sure you use proper dilution rates. Do not ingest essential oils, do not add them to your water, depend on the viscosity. They're not going to dilute anyway. Yeah. So there. Do I have a tons more to I can, yes. As a clinical aromatherapist, again, I could spend an hour on this. Again, I'm trying to give you a bird's eye view, a highlight so you can walk away with some best next steps to start right away. That's my goal here is to educate you with the best next step that you can start right away and be, I'm going to try this at night. I'm going to try this during the day. Yeah. Okay, so now breath work. So I love breath work. And as a matter of fact, when I'm working with my private clients, I recommend an app. Again, no kickback, nothing here. There's no kickback on any of this. But I recommend an app called Stress Watch, which I also use myself. That's been very, very supportive, not only training my new service dog, which I pretty much don't even need him anymore. So we're now doing a lot of dog sports, but I do continue to train him out. So if I'm having a not so great day, I know I've got, my sidekick there helping me out. And he's doing absolutely wonderful. And he's only 16 months old. So shout out to Rowan the Service Poodle. Shout out to Slancha, the Irish Terrier, my retired service dog. So anyway, so first of all, I'll talk about that Stress Watch app. I love it because you can set it to 12 minutes intervals. And then you can look back on those 12 minutes and keep a journal and start picking up clues on what might be inadvertently sabotaging you. It works through heart rate variability, not your heart rate. It's not going to tell you if your heart rate is, 120 or 150 or 220. I remember sitting there. As a matter of fact, my heart rate is actually normalized since I've been doing this. And then my heart rate variability is super fabulous most of the time. Um, but I used to just sit here, my heart rate would go to 220, or I could sit here and it would drop to 29. Now, since I've been doing these protocols, we're talking about heart rate right now, not heart rate variability, just two different things. I should do a slide completely on that, but I didn't. Now my heart rate is in the norm of the low 41. And I think my highest I go to now is like maybe um 120 or so. Like when I say this has been freaking unbelievable for me, like unfreaking believable. I mean, it's just been a freaking amazing. I don't want to use that word. Like I want to use the stronger word because that's how freaking amazing it has been for me. So now heart rate variability measures the beats in between measures the amount of time in between your heart rate. So we want your heart rate variability to be positive. And this is the reason why, without learning all the science and all the things about biofeedback and HRV and all that kind of stuff, which you can do, you can go to Dr. Google if you want to learn about it. The Stress Watch app. Now, if you have another one that does heart rate variability, it ain't broke. Don't, as Daddy says, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Use what you've got. You don't have to buy a new one, but you want to make sure that you're keeping an eye on your heart rate variability. And this is the reason why hypnosis and breath work are so good, because it's going to put you in a good heart rate variability, which will support reduction in your symptomology. It's going to enhance overall relaxation. And more importantly, it's going to help you sleep. It's going to improve your focus. Um, it's going to reduce inflammation in your body. Did I already say that? Because I'm going to say it again because that's how important it is. Yeah. So we want to make sure that we're keeping an eye on that. And so what I like about, again, no kickback on the stress app watch. Um, but what I like about it is it measures every 12 minutes and it'll give you the little thing, overwhelm, 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 or you're good. So then you can start seeing what's making me better, what's making me, what's getting me an overload without an expensive device. And I think I mean, most people have like a watch that does this. So you can just add the app. I think the app is like 40 bucks a year or something like that. Again, no kickbacks. It's just been very supportive to me and my clients. So I did want to mention it. Okay. Breath work and self-hypnosis are going to be excellent for heart rate variability. Excellent. Also guided imagery. Excellent, excellent, excellent for heart rate variability. Right. So here's one of my top breath work techniques. I teach a bunch. I have a YouTube channel. I teach a bunch, but this is my favorite because I mostly see Gen Xers, and we know 7-Eleven. So I teach it because it's easy for people to remember, right? And I want people to remember to do things. So this is easy, 7-Eleven. So you can do this in the morning. You can do this evening time. I do this along with guided imagery, along with my self-hypnosis in the evening time and in the morning. So before you reach for your phone in the morning, do this technique. Before you go to bed, do this technique. Now, I would also highly suggest you learn self-hypnosis and do that as well, because that's actually going to forward pace you to seeing your body healthy again and do some epigenetic changes, which we'll talk about later. But we've we've got to start somewhere. So if you want more information about self-hypnosis, just reach out to me. So what we're going to do is just go and take a deep breath and just kind of, I'm going to invite you to take a deep breath for a moment and just kind of sit where you can kind of let your belly, like even if you want to secretly, if nobody's around, undo your britches so that you can kind of inflate your belly some, get comfortable for a second. Yeah. All right. Take a deep breath in and just blow it out, lengthen the exhale. Good. Now here's what we're going to do. I want you to see, sense, feel, or even pretend that your belly is like a balloon. Yeah. And even if you want to see it a particular color, so right now I'm closing my eyes and I'm seeing my belly as a beautiful pink balloon. And as I'm breathing in through my nose, I'm going to hold at the very top, like I'm at the top of a roller coaster. Don't hold your breath, just pause for a second. So I'm going to breathe into the count of 7. Really allow that belly to extend out, see my balloon out. And then on the count of 11, really visualize that balloon pulling in, that navel going in to the vertebrae. Yeah. All right, let's just do a couple of these. Breathing in to the count of 7. Noticing that balloon. Now exhaling to the count of 11. Lengthen the exhale as long as you can. If you can go to 14, even better. You can go to 20, even better. The longer you can lengthen that exhale, the more benefit you get. Let's do it one more time. In 7 and out. Good. Now, as a martial artist, and if you've ever watched a martial artist on the floor, you'll notice we do a lot of kiops where we yell. That's not for show. That is to support proper oxygen exchange. So if you are new to this, it is imperative that you start seated. If you are not, when I taught martial arts and we would bring the parents of the students, on the mat, we would teach them breath work. And the first thing I would notice is everybody would breathe with their shoulders up and down, up and down. If you're breathing with your shoulders, you're not doing it right. You have to learn proper oxygen exchange. Your body needs it. It has to have it because you're actually increasing risk of anxiety by doing that. Yeah. So this If I do this a while, I'm going to have an anxiety attack. I'm going to have a panic attack. Yeah. I've already been there, done that, got the t-shirt. We're not going down that road anymore. So we really want to drop the shoulders down, focus on diaphragmatic breathing, really allowing that belly to inflate and really focusing in on that area. So when you start this, start staying seated. The majority of my clients I work with are female, so I'm like, hey, you got to go potty anyway. Do your breath work then. When you get up, do your breath work. Before you go to bed, do your breath work, right? Some people just set a timer on their phone and do a few rounds of this and really until you really like I do hypnosis for a living and I do self-hypnosis practically every day. So I can drop out of fight or flight with the sound of a meditation bell. Literally. I can drop right into trance with the sound of a meditation bell. But I also have a little time in service, right? I've been doing meditative work um for many, many, many years now. Meditation is really, really great. I do about 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes in the evening, and also do self Reiki at night as well as I'm doing my breath work and self hypnosis. So I say all of this to say that these little rests that we can give our body and our nervous system are valuable. They are worth millions of dollars, trust me. Now, one of the newer things I have been adding into, not newer, but newer for me in the last 5 or 6 years or so, I've seen private client, or I've been seeing clients for 20 some years, but over the last 5 or so years, I've been actually integrating hypnosis into my private practice, and it has been a game changer. Um, Certain clients, depending on what they need, have gone from maybe typically needing X amount of sessions to maybe boiling it down to like 4 sessions, like my complex post-traumatic stress disorder clients. Often we can get through that in what used to be 10 or 12 sessions, now four, right? So what used to be maybe a year of healing, working with chronic clients, now we're shortening that time. And how are we doing that? Through hypnosis. So I just read a study a couple of days ago. I can't remember the name of it because I'm all constantly in peer review research, as I'm finishing up my PhD. But there was a new study that I just read that is talking about how hypnosis can positively impact the genome. These mind-body interventions are actually now showing up on studies. They're reducing stress, or it reduces stress, promotes relaxation. Again, it can improve autonomic nervous system function. And if you know what dysautonomia is, it is a dysfunction of the autonomic nervous system, right? So what do we need to do? That's where we need to land. That's where we need to drive this home. And so with my private clients, I've been teaching them how to see themselves well, how to program in that, um, reprogram that genetic, and we can't change your hair color from, red to brown or from brown to red or whatever, that kind of stuff. But what we're doing is turning on the good genes. This is what epigenetics is, the idea of influencing the genome, right? What we're doing is positively influencing the genome so that we can turn on the good genes, the healing genes, the restorative genes, and turn off the genes that are causing this trouble. This is not a one-time session, right? This is not a once and done thing. This is over time that we're doing this. But when we work over time and we do this, and this is what I've been doing with my private clients and myself, and it's been so amazing. Oh, so amazing. Is really what we're doing is saying to this unconscious mind, the 95% of the mind that you're using every day, you just don't realize it. We want to basically reprogram that for healing and health. And epigenetic healing with hypnosis has been unbelievable. Again, another layer, another tool that we are layering in so that we can delete the old patterns, delete the sick genes, so to speak, not legitimate, not technically, scientifically, but what we want to do is we want to turn on the good genes, right? And when we do that, we can turn off those bad genes. And this is the benefits of epigenetics and mind body medicine with epigenetics. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. So mind body medicine, in case you're new to mind body medicine, we're actually on an equal footing with conventional medicine. We do things differently, but we are on equal footing. No fads, no smoke and mirrors here. Solid mind body protocols to help people heal. Now, of course, obviously I teach my private clients self-hypnosis, guided imagery as well, because I want them to use these tools in between our sessions, because that's where we're going to get the biggest bang for our buck. Now, as a functional herbalist, again, somebody who's been doing herbalism for a bazillion years, I'm certified in as a functional medicine health coach as well. Spent probably at least 3 or 4 years studying functional medicine, and I spent a year in um, functional coaching certification. So, really, again, we're coming down to again nourishing the body, right? Functional nutrition can support reducing symptoms, reducing inflammation. We're focusing on nutrient-dense food, clean proteins, healthy fats. We're reducing our sugars, all the junky stuff. We're supporting the balance in insulin. And sometimes there's some speculation that POTS can be triggered by insulin resistance. I don't know how much that is out that I really subscribe to in this moment, but doesn't make a difference. Everything plays a role. Like we're a whole person. So if you think you're going to get away with just using aromatherapy and not making some dietary changes, you might luck out. You might luck out. And if you do, I am so glad for you. But as a whole, we need to address everything, and that includes what is going into our mouths. Not just our stress levels around us, but also what's going into our body, right? And so I talk about this in my book, and we're actually re-editing the book. And actually, as soon as that book is done, um, I'm actually writing a book right now on POTS as well, but I can only do one thing at a time, so you can look forward to that. But but I say all this to say is that one thing that I say in my book, and I talk to my private clients is about it's what we do day in, day out that hurts or heals. So I'm going to say that again. It's what we do day in, day out that hurts or heals. So we can't, you know, just neglect ourselves all the time and then be like, I don't understand why I'm not feeling good. Like this was me. I was the yes person. That's a trauma response, right? I was part of a very bitter relationship that destroyed me financially, physically, every which way. And I was actually displaced for about a month. I didn't even have a place to stay. That's how horrible the situation was. All of that drove me into a deeper state of illness. And all of that made my health worse, my physical health, my mental health, everything. And so when I got out of that relationship and I started to heal, and then I started doing all these things that I'm teaching you guys, like I said, yeah, I probably could technically go without a service dog and probably be okay. I'm not going to because I already got him trained out, and I don't want to take a chance. But my point is, if you're in harsh relationships or if you're around harsh people, that can be impacting as well. So we want to look at every aspect. Actually had when I was getting ready to I had to go to the emergency room one time because they thought I was having a stroke. It was just a bad dysautonomia flare as a autistic and HSP. And I had a family member came in and she screamed at me, berated me, and told me it was just anxiety. So be mindful who you keep company with is what I'm trying to say there. So yeah, functional nutrition. I personally follow the Mito food plan in functional medicine. That's been very supportive for me personally. I actually took I had class from a cardiologist herbalist a couple years ago. Again, you can go to my website and see all about me. Go to my About Me page, and you can click on and has all of my, not everything because there's a lot, but a lot of my training is on there. So you can actually see all the training I've had in functional medicine and herbalism and hypnotherapy, etc. But I took a class from a cardiologist who's also an herbalist in New York. I can't remember his name, it escapes me now. But one of the things he encouraged his patients to do was to give up gluten and milk. And he said 85% of his patients who did give up gluten got better. They didn't need him anymore. something simple as that because they had either the food allergy or sensitivity and it was causing inflammation in their body. So I am not completely no dairy. I probably should be, but I am pretty much I'm gluten free completely because I do have that allergy. It's not fun. Sad face, not fun. But nonetheless, my point is allergy elimination protocol and functional medicine and really getting at nutrient dense food that nourishes the body and it's not causing inflammation is huge. It's huge. I actually walk my clients through that. I give them support on that. I send them, information on that so they can do that as well. Again, we're just doing little by little layering in. Right here, you got to be careful with MCAS, but lacto-fermented foods can be good. Now, you do have to, again, I'm going to say this again, you have to be careful if you have MCAS. Lacto-fermented foods may be contraindicated, just like chocolate, like I mentioned earlier. Sometimes things can be contraindicated for people. So you got to know this kind of stuff. But from my perspective as a practitioner, this is where good questioning comes in. Like when I'm working with my clients, all right, tell me about this. All right, I work with also with clients who have genetic mutations, COMT mutations, MTHFR mutations, MOAM mutations, right? With good questioning and with somebody who's really highly skilled and trained to look at this, sometimes you can see what mutations they may have. And I also often will recommend supplements. Again, no kickbacks, but I will recommend supplements based on mutations that looks like that they may have. If you want to learn more about mutations, Dr. Ben Lynch, Dirty Genes, that is also, I took one of his, well, I read the book and then I took one of his classes or something. I can't remember. That was a long time ago. But anyway, I use part of his work as well in my work. So you see how I'm layering in like the best of everybody. I want the best of everybody, not only for myself, but for my clients. That's where I'm at. I want the best for me, which means I want the best for my clients too. So anything that doesn't work or is fad, I don't use it and I don't recommend it at all. All right, I can't share all of the testimonials with you guys because we would be here for a while, but I wanted to share these two. These are the two recent ones. And the one on the top, you can go to my business Google, whatever it's called, reviews page. You can see all of my reviews. I get 5 stars from everybody who's worked with me. I get 5 stars from people who haven't even done the reviews because they don't want to leave their name, and that's fine too. And some people, I've told them they can leave anonymous, and that's okay. But my point is, my clients are happy clients, which is very important to me. Not saying this to brag, but I have about a 97% success rate when I'm working one-on-one with people. Yeah, so that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Um, so here are a couple of testimonials you can look at. The one on the top here, she has POTS, and we really worked diligently to really, really improve her outlook as well. And she's doing a lot better. And she had, I want to make sure I don't read into anything because I don't want to tell her story. But anyway, she had a lot of the symptomology that we're talking about. And she has she didn't get the help that she wanted from the doctors, and she is doing so much better because of our work together. Again, I'm just trying to be vague because I don't want to pull out what she actually did because that's private. And then another one of my clients struggled with migraines here, very uncontrollable. And so in our time, and we worked together as well, that was helpful for her. And I've got a lot of other testimonials I could give, but just for time's sake, I'm going to cut it short. Again, I had IBS, migraines. I had all the things. Like I got the triple fecta. It's not even trifecta. It's the whole fecta, um, as well. So yeah. All right. So now I've given you like again the bird's eye view here. When I work my private clients, we work over a period of about 3 months. I recommend herbal therapeutics based on them, right? Not your neighbor. on that person, the person that's in front of me. We work on tools for stress reduction. We work on tools for sleep, right? The whole gestalt. And then again, we're reprogramming that mind for epigenetic healing. That's the big one. That's one of the ones that thus far, I'm not trying to brag, but thus far I have not seen enough other practitioners integrate in, is integrating in hypnosis for epigenetic healing. That's huge. It's made a huge difference. I actually have an epigenetic recording that I have now that I listen to that I share with my private clients as well. It's huge. It's been a game changer. So what we're doing is looking at everything from the gestalt, right? We're pulling in relationships. We're pulling in sleep issues and physical issues and dietary changes, slow and steady, in a way that's bite size by bite size, moving slow and steady, so that by the end of our time working together, we have a nice solid plan and you actually get to see the benefits of going along, right? You see the wins, You're like, oh my gosh, like I had one of my clients. She was like, Kelly, at first I thought this hypnosis stuff was just going to be a bunch of hullabaloo. I was like, right? And she's like, and I didn't even want to do it at first. And I was like, okay. She said, but that's been the effing game changer. Only she said it all the way. So I was like, girl, right? And she's like, yes, it's been a game changer. I was like, yeah, I don't do what doesn't work. I don't do it. I've been doing this for 40 years now. I've come across things that people have done, and I'm like, all right, I'll see what, yeah, no, that's crap. I'm not doing that. I only use the top of the top. I only use what works. I give my clients 1,000%. I give them the top of the top of my knowledge. And, they get my 40 years of holistic experience. They get, everything I've learned in my PhD and on my own as a functional herbalist, a clinical herbalist, a master herbalist, and aromatherapist, and all the things, right? I give them the best of the best. If something doesn't work, I don't keep it in my toolbox. I don't. And if it doesn't have science behind it, yeah. Or if it's fad science, I mean, yeah, I don't know about that. The point is, I go very deep into the science. Like I bring in the plant medicine, the shamanic part of the plant medicine, right, with the science as well. So this blend of East meets West, so to speak, or the science behind meditation. What's the science behind these things? What are the science? Like, what's the proof that this stuff works instead of just telling you to go do it? Like I explain those things. So I say all that to say that I hope this gives you a really good overview. If you want more information about like my self-hypnosis class or the epigenetic, recording or anything like that, or if we want to chat about how we can work deeper at this on this level, just simply go there and schedule a call. Um, there'll be a short questionnaire and then there'll be a video I'll have you watch just to make sure that we're a match to work together. And then, of course, if it makes sense to us for us to work together for your specific issue, then we'll talk about what that looks like. And if it doesn't make sense for us to work together, of course, I'm always ethical in what I do. I'll either refer you to a resource that can support you, or perhaps even point you to some blogs on my website as well, if that makes sense as well. And that all being said, I do have a lot of blogs on POTS on my website. So you can go to momallkelly.com or kellyugert.com. That's Kelly with an I. Um, I have a lot of blogs on there as well. So you can go ahead and kind of start looking at a little bit and then schedule a time to connect with me. I am typically, like right now, I'm actually have a wait list. We can still check in, and then if it makes sense for us to work together, then I'll slap you right at the top of the wait list, right? So, I am here genuinely because I know what it feels like. I know what it feels like to literally crawl. I mean, I remember, I texted my best friend, um, and showed the bruises on my knees, and he was like, "What in the world?" I was like, "I've been crawling from room to room." And he was like, why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you say anything? Like, well, okay, so that's a trauma response right there, right? I said, like, well, I came from such bitter relationships that I knew nobody would help me anyway. Now I have released a lot of toxic relationships. Now I have people in my life who are supportive and we're on the road together. Nobody's perfect, but versus this shaming somebody for the fact that they have a chronic condition or tell them it's just anxiety or that's just this or whatever. That's just hullabaloo. And I see that a lot as somebody who is on these, POTS groups. A lot of them also have unsupportive people in their life, and that's unfortunately not helping as well. So, takeaways here. Really, the takeaways are number one, you're not alone. You are not alone. I am here with you. Okay. Don't quit my day job, right? You're not alone. This is a multifaceted disease. I really don't even like that word, but dis-ease, right? This is multifaceted, which means it needs multifaceted approach to healing. Sometimes there can be some emotional aspects below it that we have to address as well. Addressing the body as a whole and not just throwing. This is one of the things that frustrates me as a clinical herbalist, and I've been doing this for a lot of years, is this idea that, well, what herb replaces this? That's pharma. We don't think in pharma things. That's not what we do, right? We don't think like that. There's not just one herb that is a substitute for that because we don't know the person, we don't know the constitution, we don't know all the other things. That is fad stuff. So if you've got someone who's like, oh, you just take this, like if I had just said in this program, oh, you just take Hawthorne and everything will be fine. No, that's wrong. That's fad, and that's a fad practitioner. With all due respect, avoid those type of scenarios. Or if somebody just read a blog and now they know everything about POTS because they took one supplement, happened to work for them because they're so minor anyway, or it was so not extreme for them, and now they think they have the cure. No, 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 no. Anybody tells you that they have the 100% cure, no offense, like in the beginning, I said, put more spoons back in your day, right? I mean, I'm better than I ever, ever, ever have been. Do I need to cowboy it up and not sleep and go on a drinking binge for 5 days? No, that's just sophomoric and juvenile. Of course, I'm not a drinker anyway. But my point is, doesn't mean you can be better and you still have to take care of yourself. We still have to take care of ourselves because chronic conditions, you know, you have those onesie twosies that completely be healed. Great. It's wonderful. I love that. And at the same time, it's not most of the time. In most cases, you know, it's somebody trying to sell you something, right? And I'm not trying to be that person, but I'm just warning you ahead of time because I know I've been there, done that, got the t-shirt. They're like, oh, you just go do this and you'll be healed. Oh, just drink water. I can't tell you how many people just said drink water and I'll be healed. Oh, dang it. I got a PhD and I didn't even think about drinking water. Oversimplified advice is not helpful. It's not. It's frustrating, unsolicited advice, frustrating and whatnot. So work with someone who knows what they're doing, who's been there, done that, who has the education to support what they're doing as well. And thank you so much for coming and keep an eye out on my upcoming book on POTS recovery. I don't have a name for it yet. It's in the process now. But anyway, thanks for joining me. Please feel free to reach out. And if there's anything I can do, if there's anything I can point you in the right direction. And again, if it makes sense for us to work together, we can talk about what that looks like. And check out the blog. And hopefully this is helpful. All right. I love you guys so much. Be blessed in all that you do and have a great one.